Hello everybody! So a while ago I made a video talking about why I love old dead single-player games. Well, for me it has been today. For you it might have been a few weeks, up to a month, depending how I've been uploading these videos. A joy of content creation ahead of time. You don't quite know what the schedule's gonna be looking like, and it's very hard to tell where the videos have actually slotted in. Hooray! Anyway, I don't want to brag, but as having been growing up in early 2000s, I am a bit of a master at playing early to mid 2000 games, especially very specific ones. These would be one of those very specific ones. So I understand that younger generations or people that have not experienced early to mid 2000 games during the early to mid 2000 era might find them a bit challenging to get into or otherwise confusing. What do you do? How do you get it to run? I am like that with games that are older than early to mid 2000s, and it becomes quite the difficulty curve to get used to concepts and controls that were just normal everyday thing for people that actually got to experience the decade firsthand. So see this as a bit of a friendly guide. We're sitting on a screenshot, and the reason why we're sitting on a screenshot is the first thing that you need to do after getting yourself a copy of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Doesn't matter where you got it, whether it's a hard disk copy, whether it's good old games, whether it's Steam, you need to get your butt down to Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines unofficial patch. It doesn't have to go through Nexus mods. It is also uploaded into IMDb and many other places that host mods. You will want to download this, follow the instructions, and install it. If I can make a recommendation when you're going through the installation process, install the bare bones version. Don't add any kind of add-ons that the developer included, like there is an add-on that makes your blood tick down every couple of minutes to keep the difficulty up. Now, mind you, it can be fun to play with that, and it's not a problem if you did choose to install that. It's just that you're making a game that you haven't experienced yet purposely harder for yourself, which you don't need. So the first thing that you will need to do in order to get Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines working for yourself on any system is to go ahead and download this mod. Thankfully, for the most part, that is kind of the only thing that you need to do. It runs fairly well on modern systems. You shouldn't really experience many hardware-related malfunctions on the game's side. You should be able to double-click the little link that you get from installing the unofficial mod. It comes with like a little shortcut on your desktop. You can double-click that and you should be good to go. So for the next part of the video, I'm actually gonna see you in-game. Give me a second. There we are. Welcome to the main menu. Now, first of all, if you want to investigate options, look at the controls, figure out if this is something that's normal for you and seems okay. If not, remap them to whatever feels comfortable for you. I would honestly suggest just taking out any modern game that you've played that you know the controls of, looking into options over there, and then matching what you see on that side into here. It will help a lot with getting used to the controls if they are familiar to you to begin with. When you're gonna click new game, there are things that you can do. We're currently on the loading screen, so you'll have to give us a second. You can either answer a series of questions about a type of vampire you would like to play and allow the game to create your character, or you can go directly to the character sheet and set your character clan attributes and abilities yourself. I suggest always going with the second one. mainly because you don't know what to expect. The first one sounds cool, but it might be better to get a hang of the game before you start allowing the game to create a character for you. There are two genders. It doesn't matter which one you pick over here, so pick whichever you want. However, there is a couple of clans that you should avoid. The first clan that you should avoid is the one that we're currently sitting on. Do not take Malkavians for your first playthrough. Reason being is that they're the insane vampires, which means that for you it might be kinda hard to figure out what the character is saying and trying to respond as to other non-playable characters, which makes the game ultra confusing. And also they will sometimes get like audible premonitions and mention like fourth wall breaking stuff, not as directed to you, the player, but more as in mentioning the events in the game that have not happened yet. It should probably leave you a bit confused, but I feel like it might also leave you a little bit spoiled, and you might not want that before you have experienced those events yourself. So it's a choice that you can take, but I do not recommend taking it for your first playthrough. The second choice that I don't recommend taking for your first playthrough is Nosferatu. And I don't suggest going with Nosferatu mainly because the game will become a bit more difficult before you're used to the game. You are a walking masquerade violation, which is these 5 little masks. Normally, when you are eating people in front of other people, people don't like that, and it will come up as a masquerade violation, as in you reveal to everyone that you're a vampire. And there are quests in game that allow you to restore these 5 masks. But if you run out of those masks, it is game over. And Nosferatus get a masquerade violation for getting seen in the first place. And now, mind you, you do get invisibility, and you can use sewers to traverse. And I got to a point where I can run around in an open street and be confident that nobody will see me, mainly because I know how much the non-playable characters, how far they quote-unquote see, like what is their detection range. But if you're entirely new to the game, you're not even used to its regular mechanics, you definitely don't need like an extra difficulty layer. Let's set to absolutely any class. So for now, I set it to Toreador. It's a clan, but it means the exact same thing as a class. Let me give you a bit of an overview of the attributes, abilities, and skills. Your disciplines are quite powerful. Auspex just kind of lets you see things, which is cool. But unless you're being a sneaky person and you really need to know where the NPCs are, not the best ability to invest in. Celerity makes you move fast, which is really great for combat, so in this class I would invest here. Now, investigation highlights items for you. Scholarship increases research and persuasion. Research allows you to learn from books inside of game, so it might be kind of nice stat to have. Persuasion opens special dialogue options with NPCs that allows you to solve some conflicts without there being any violence. Okay, if you're going for a social character. Finance just makes you get more money and makes buying shit a bit cheaper. Not my top 10 of a thing. Computers are kind of important, mostly because hacking is kind of important. There will be some things locked behind a computer, and while you can progress through the game without having any hacking whatsoever, it is actually a lot easier if you can just hack into things rather than having to run around and try to guess what the passwords are of people, because that's going to be a lot more cryptic. I definitely don't suggest doing that. I do suggest having a nice amount of hacking. Firearms and melee should be self-explanatory. One makes you better at guns, the other one makes you better at melee weapons. I like both, honestly. Security increases lockpicking. Lockpicking is another thing, just like computers, just like hacking, that's kind of important. There will be some things that will be locked behind doors. I would say having a lockpicking of at least 4 is something that I would recommend for a playthrough. Higher lockpicking means that you can get into more places and complete some side quests, but you don't necessarily need it. And in fact, you can go through the game on lockpicking 1, is just making it unnecessarily more difficult for yourself to have no lockpicking. So personally, I would take some lockpicking. Intimidation opens some fun dialogue options again, just like persuasion. This time it is allowing you to threaten some characters into doing what you want, namely get, some money off smaller NPCs, perhaps steal a watch or two. It's fun because it's kind of social. Subterfuge is seduction. For drinking from characters inside bars, there's gonna be dedicated characters inside bars that you can talk to. Inside each hub that the game will have, each level, there will be a bar, and inside a bar, there will be a character that you can speak with and drink blood from. You will need to seduce them in order for them to allow it to happen. So if you want free blood, good thing to go for. Dodge avoids damage. Brawl allows you to deal damage with fists. Personally, unless your character also has potence as one of the disciplines, which increases your fisticuff damage, I think that melee and ranged combat will serve you more. So I would suggest investing into either melee or ranged or both when it comes to leveling your character up for dealing damage. Now, these are just things that increase multiple of those feats that we just talked about at the same time. So for example, wits is hacking and defense. Intelligence is research and intimidate. Perception is inspection and ranged. Why not? I'll be able to see some items and I will be better at ranged weapons. Now, charisma is persuasion. Manipulation is haggle only. That is a very weird choice. And appearance is seduction, and I am gonna just give myself some persuasion and seduction 5 for just some cool options. And I don't get any physical attributes. Some classes do, but strength would determine your unarmed and melee, which is not a bad thing to invest in. Dexterity would determine how well you sneak and lockpick. Lockpicking's great. And stamina is for bashing, which is your ability to shrug off damage from bullets and blunt melee weapons. Take it if you find yourself kind of failing at the game. Though, honestly, ran through this many times without taking anything to soak damage, it was okay. It's not a super punishing game, but that is my opinion. Some people will disagree, therefore just, play around, see how you feel. Let's just name ourselves, I don't know, try hard. And I am gonna accept and launch the game. See you after the cutscene. Welcome, we have just finished the cutscene, hopefully you did too, I'm not gonna be spoiling it for you. Now, when you talk with this man, I'm gonna be skipping through his conversation. You will get an option to ask him for help. Just give me the basics, we'll just give you the rundown of the whole place that you're in. I don't need anyone's help, skips the tutorial entirely. okay, I could use that help, puts you into tutorial. I 100% recommend you to press the button saying, okay, I could use the help. It will take you maybe 20 minutes to complete the full tutorial. You're gonna leave it holding at the very least a lockpick. You can also convince him to effectively allow you to keep a gun. If I remember correctly, you can also probably steal a baseball bat, but don't quote me on that. Point is, you're gonna receive some items. Those items are pretty good. Normally, you would need to buy your own lockpick without doing the tutorial, so whenever I'm playing, I'm not a speedrunner. Whenever I start a new save, I always do the tutorial and get the lockpick. For one thing, it will also allow you to understand the game better, understand the whole setting better, figure out how the controls feel for you, readjust some stuff as you need. We already stated that you can remap all the buttons to whatever the heck you want them to be, which is something that you should do, and just remap it to whatever feels comfy for you. If you don't like the clan that you're playing, if their abilities just don't feel right, you can also just scrap the whole thing, start it all over again, and try with a different clan, see if the tutorial feels any better. It's your time to experiment effectively. This is like one cutscene into the game, so it is the perfect playing ground. So my last tip for not being intimidated by this game is to actually do the tutorial. I know it sounds boring, but I think that you definitely should. And that should be it. Honestly, this is not a hard game to run, with modern systems even. And to me, it doesn't feel that clunky. But to some people, it will definitely feel clunky, especially if you're used to games from 2025, which is the year that I'm recording this. Hooray! But point is, it's not hard to run. You can readjust all of the controls. I gave you a rundown for what the character sheet do. I gave you a rundown for which clans to avoid if you want a smoother first playthrough, just like leave them for a second playthrough or something. And that's it. It's not gonna feel that horrible, especially not after you remap the keys to whatever you're more used to in modern titles. It feels fairly okay, at least from my perspective. But once again, that is me. These are the games that I grew up on, but let me tell you, I came back to Elder Scrolls Oblivion, definitely felt more clunky than Bloodlines, so you know, not everything that I grew up upon, apparently I find to be as easy to play these days as I did when I was a child. So maybe, just maybe I'm right and this game isn't that hard to play. You shouldn't have any issues. If you followed those tips, you should be okay. So just go on, enjoy the game. If you like videos like these, check out what my channel has. Figure out if that's your cup of tea or not. They talk about tabletops, they talk about occult, they talk about video games, and I release videos 3 times a week. I sometimes play retro games which go further back than Bloodlines. I have a lot of playthroughs of Bloodlines, but perhaps don't spoil yourself before you played it yourself. So if you like what you see, please subscribe. Just make sure that you actually like what you see. Thank you so much for my Patreons that help and support this channel and allow me to buy new games to try and later make commentary upon or just play through on streams. And I hope that you have a good experience. If you have actually set out to play this game after watching this video, do tell me how it went in the comment section down below. I'm very curious about how much you enjoyed it. Bye, B.